So the LA Times ran a piece today which claimed a safer game could turn fans away from the NFL.
A lot of people now are targeting the chest to nullify your use of your arms.
Wow.
So that you can't pass out of the tackle.
So today, it's my dad, unmasked.
Hello, everybody.
Actually, just recently I had you up on Patreon, semi-unmasked. You were blindfolded, so we're just launching you onto the world.
You've done some terrible things to me over the last while, Diane. I'm competitive.
If you're new here, I used to coach rugby to teeny tiny people, but my dad here actually coached rugby on a professional adult level, and today we wanted to look at the Damar Hamlin situation. If you didn't know, Damar Hamlin was injured very badly to the point that they had to call off the entire game and he was taken to intensive care. Now, thankfully, it seems he's okay. He's coming back around. His vitals are looking really good at the time that we're filming this video. However, a lot of people have been bringing in the argument that if they hardened the rules in NFL football to the extent that the rugby rules are, that this injury would not have happened. And when I looked at it happen, I was thinking that's not the case, but I really wanted to ask somebody who's a bit more expert than me, so ta-da!
The reality is, in any of these major contact sports which are professional, where you have very big men, 20 stone, that's, as I think it's 280 pounds, and they're running at speed at one another, and they're doing this as a way of living. You can't take all the risks out of it. There's always going to be a risk element, and the players know that themselves when they go out. You can't eliminate all the dangers. Rugby Union, since it's gone professional, has become a much more dangerous sport, because in the 60s and 70s, the players, I know a lot of our American audience won't know what a prop forward is, but they're the men that play in the front of the scrum.
The real big guys.
Yeah, they were about 14 and a half, 15 stone playing international rugby. That's 208 pounds. Whereas nowadays, the professional players that are playing for their country have to be at least 19 to 20 stone. So that's about 280 pounds. And these men are now 6 foot, 6'1". And the second row forwards in the 60s and 70s, when it was an amateur game, their height was on average around 6'1", 6'2", whereas now that's the height of the wingers. The men playing on the fast men on the back line, they're all about 6'1", 6'2", and the players that play in the second row nowadays in professional era, they're all about 6'6", 6 foot up to 6'9".
I don't do numbers very well, but my dad does a lot of numbers and statistics. But it's funny that you should say that, because here are a couple of the quotes from people on Twitter and what they're saying about rugby versus NFL. And as always with Twitter, you don't know who's actually talking. Is it somebody who's even played either sport? But one person said if they didn't have all the armour, they would have to tackle differently, like rugby. Yes. Somebody else said this injury was due to the hit the running back made using his hard shoulder pads as a weapon. Can't do that in rugby.
Yeah. Well, from the limited knowledge I have of American football, the original players didn't wear body armour, and the body armour was actually introduced on the pretext of protecting the players. And now it's gone a full circle around as things happen in life, and people are now saying the body armour is actually causing them major problems.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people say that, like, they're hitting each other using their actual helmets. The rules of American football change like constantly. So there's 50 rules brought in since the beginning of NFL football, but they're always changing. And one of the rules that was brought in prohibits players from launching themselves off the ground and using their helmet to strike a player in a defenseless posture in the head or neck. And this was amended to include receivers and defenders. So what you're saying is totally right. They are actually using
the body armour and the helmets.
To use it for hits.
And also some of the medical information that I've read over the years say that it's more of a risk to have your head enclosed in a helmet or in what we call a scrum cap. When you get concussion in your head, it means your brain moves. So if it's within a helmet, it kind of ricochets quicker.
If you don't know, there is a position in Rugby Union that players wear this cap, which is called the
scrum cap.
And only generally one player on the team wears it?
Well, in fact, nowadays, since it went professional, it's any player is entitled to wear it. In fact, one of the Irish wingers who's actually recently come onto the team, he constantly wears a scrum cap, even though he's playing way out on what we call the wing. A wing would be a back. The forwards in rugby are usually the bigger men, and they are numbered 1 to 8, and they're called forwards. They're not the glamour boys. They're the boys that do all the hard work and take a lot of hits.
Oh,
What do you mean by that?
they're not the quarterback.
No, they're not the quarterback. Our quarterback is usually number 10. He's the equivalent of the quarterback. And they're the glamour boys. And they call the forwards the piano pushers, the piano movers. They do that as an insult, by the way.
Okay. What you're saying is in rugby, you are entitled to wear a scrum
You're entitled
cap.
to wear a scrum
Any
cap.
player.
Any player.
But
And
most players don't opt to.
no, most players don't opt to because they find it's very warm when you're playing a game, and the scrum caps are traditionally made of leather, so they get very warm. Your head gets very warm, so most players don't like wearing them. A lot of players wear bandages around their head, around their ears, and things like that.
Somebody was actually saying to me in the comments that their uniforms, in a lot of cases, the body temperature is checked, and if a player in American football is getting too hot, they actually take them off the pitch. So that's really interesting what you're saying.
Yeah. The major injuries that are happening nowadays in rugby since it's gone professional are as a result of concussion. A lot of players are ending up with dementia. They're totally losing their memory. And in fact, at the moment in England, since last July, 200 English rugby players, some of them very, very well known international players like Steve Thompson, who was the World Cup winning captain for England when they won the World Cup, and one of the Welsh captains. A lot of them are professional, some of them are semi-professional, and they've lodged a lawsuit against the Rugby Football Union for negligence of not minding them when they're playing, because a lot of these men now have the early onset of Alzheimer's as a result of concussion.
And concussion is a huge problem for NFL as well.
Oh, right, yeah. I understand a lot of NFL players are suing their league for have filed lawsuits against the American League as well. And in 2022, last year, 4 Irish players, 2 ex-Irish international players, and 2 provincial players, which would be a level just below international, have filed a lawsuit against the Irish Rugby Football Union for the onset of early signs of Alzheimer's as a result of concussion.
So it's a problem in both sports, both in rugby and NFL.
Yeah, well, don't forget that American football originally came from Rugby Union.
True, good point.
Now they are, in fairness to they are changing the laws in Rugby Football Union to eliminate that, because now you're not allowed tackle above the shoulders. You're not allowed to put your arm around somebody's neck, which is called neck rolling. And all these laws have been brought in to try to protect the players.
They brought in another rule in NFL football to do with more stringent return to play guidelines for players suffering concussions, whereby they must consult with independent neurologists whenever there is a head injury. Is that the case in rugby?
Yeah, well, they've introduced that in the last few years, that an independent doctor, if a player looks to go down during a game as a result of a head injury, an independent doctor comes onto the pitch and assesses him, and he's then taken off if the doctor feels he should be taken off. And then they have back-to-play protocols during the game. And if a player can't answer obvious questions, like who makes the best hamburgers in the world and things like that,
Right.
they won't be
That's a hard question.
My dad.
They won't be let back out. And then a player then, once he's diagnosed with concussion, he has to go through what's called back-to-player protocols, whereby for many weeks he's not allowed play till the medical people feel that he should be back on the pitch.
So in a lot of cases in the NFL, they seem to be getting checked over and being put back out onto the field.
Well, that's why these 200 English players in England that filed a lawsuit, they would have been from an era when no player wants to go off the field. So if the referee at that time comes up to you and he goes, do you want to keep playing on? Everybody's going to say yes.
Yeah, because you're going to look like a sissy, aren't you?
In front of all your friends.
It ain't soccer, guys.
Yeah.
I'm dying?
In 1997, during a Lions tour in South Africa, a player called Will Greenwood, he was an on-cap player. For our American viewers and our overseas viewers, the Lions team is the pinnacle that an international player from Ireland, England, Scotland and Wales can get. And Will Greenwood was playing a match in South Africa, and in a tackle he swallowed his own tongue, and obviously they had very good medical people there, but I mean it was touch and go whether he would live or not for about an hour.
God.
And he even to this day talks about it, and He says it's very funny to see yourself nearly dying on a rugby pitch.
People are saying this couldn't have happened in rugby. This wasn't to do with the head. This was to do with getting a hit to the chest.
Sure.
But surely those hits also happen in rugby, whether they're wearing shoulder gear or not, right?
Yeah, they do happen, and sometimes it could quite easily happen at a severe tackle like that to the chest, because a lot of people now are targeting the chest to nullify your use of your arms.
Wow.
So that you can't pass out of the tackle. So by hitting a person that high up, that's a risk. So far, there haven't been, to my knowledge, major problems as a result of it. But we did have the Irish captain only last weekend. He had to be removed from the field of play. He's renowned for his high, straight up tackle, where he tries to, because he's the quarterback, he's the number 10, the out half, and he tries to tackle people so that when he hits them, they can't pass the ball again. He smothered tackles them, but in this particular tackle, he broke his cheekbone.
We don't know yet whether Damar Hamlin suffered a pre-existing condition or whether this was an injury, a heart problem brought on by the hit itself.
Sure.
But what some people are saying is that the strength of the gear was the only thing that made it possible for it to happen in NFL. It couldn't have happened in rugby. But what you're saying is it could have happened in rugby.
It could have happened in rugby, and there have been, so far, no professional player, to my knowledge, has died on the pitch. But I mean, many people are saying that it's only a matter of time before they will. Because when you have players of 280 pounds running at high speed, and sometimes they're forwards, the 1 to 8, they're forwards, and they're very big men. And sometimes some of the backs are because they're fast, nippy runners. They might be only 14 stone, 200 pounds. So if you've somebody 280 pounds running at speed and hitting you, there's always a big risk.
When we play back the footage, it definitely looks like a normal tackle. It doesn't look like there was anything done wrong.
I did read about this tackle. Some of the players or some of the coaches are saying that he had to be revived twice with cardiac procedures on the pitch, that he was, he had stopped breathing, and effectively he was very near death, and they brought him back twice,
Right, and this brings me to a really interesting point. So the LA Times ran a piece today which claimed a safer game could turn fans away from the NFL. A Greens Bay Packers defensive lineman said, "Just understand this is the game we play and this is the risk that we take." What do you think about that?
Well, any contact sport is always going to have a high risk, and you cannot totally eliminate risk. I mean, if you ride your bicycle, you're at risk. Every day you get into your car, you're at risk. I spoke to a number of people in the Irish Rehabilitation Institute, and they told me that the highest number of cases that they actually got into the hospital wasn't from people with sports injuries or riding horses, but people walking off the sidewalk and not remembering that there's actually a step down.
No way!
And they get such a jar in their back and their neck that it sends a shock through them. So that just shows you there's risks all around us. But like in professional sport, we have to take every possible care to protect the players,
I suppose in this case, when people go to watch, a car race or something, they expect the crashes. It's not often you see somebody in like an American football game or a rugby match get seriously injured. And I suppose when they're confronted with that fact in front of them, they don't see the concussions, they don't see the long-term injuries from that.
Yes.
What do you think of the idea that a safer game could turn fans away from the NFL?
Well, that's how long is a piece of string type of question. Nobody really knows. But I think most true fans in any sporting arena, the true fans, the first thing, they want to see a good game. They want to see, everybody physically involved. But nobody wants to see serious injuries. As in rugby union football, new laws were brought in to protect the players. The experience in rugby union hasn't been that the numbers have diminished. In fact, they've increased. And now in the last 5 to 10 years, there's a lot of women now playing rugby union football as well,
Yeah, and not in their lingerie.
And not in their lingerie.
What is that? What is that?
It's looking like Damar is doing much better. One of the first things he asked when he came around was, "Did we win?"
Oh, that's a tip. That goes to show what players are like,
Yeah, exactly. Apparently the doctor that was by his side said a very cheesy but quite poignant quote. He said, Yes, Damar, you won the game of life.
That's a good note to end it on.
Yeah. Ultimately, like, this was a really interesting question. We're not experts at American football, but just thought we'd give you a little perspective from the rugby angle that a lot of users on Twitter and stuff are coming at it from. Obviously, if you know more about American football than us, let us know anything that you want to share. And that's it. We'll see you guys on the other side. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Dad.
When I was in school, we used to play basketball, and our not at a very high level, but our basketball coach always explained to us, because we'd still be trying to play it like Rugby Union,
Oh, no.
banging into one another, and he explained that the origins of basketball in America came from the fact that people wanted to watch a sport that didn't have a huge amount of contact, and that may be true or may not be true, but it was what I was told. And as an aside, I am the only person I know that got a medal for losing 3 finals in a row. The coach felt so sorry for me, he gave me a special medal.
Oh my God.
Because I captained the losing side 3 times.
But you captained the winning one as well.
Oh, well, that wasn't in basketball.
Oh, well, that basketball.
I played basketball like I played rugby.
Oh, your basketball. Oh, see, his rugby game was good, but his basketball game.
I was actually a good basketball player because everybody else was afraid of me. which is not the basis of
Basketball.
But it worked.
What did you think of your first experience on camera?
Well, it's not my first experience.
Oh, I'm sorry.
on camera.
not in my world.
Well, you may recall I was.
You were in a few videos before, but you were a shamrock.
Yeah, but you also are forgetting that I was Father Christmas on Irish national television.
Oh, he
when we were- yeah.
was. Put you in here.